Hey everyone, it's Jamie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm really excited to bring you this next part of my speed build for the New England Farmhouse. Like I said before, this is going to be a multi-part series. I'm not really sure how long it's going to be, but today I'm bringing you the floor plan as well as the furnishing. I know in a lot of my other videos I cut out the furnishing, so it might be exciting for you to see how I furnish rooms. Maybe you'll think it's boring. I still cut out the furnishing of the bathrooms, and that's just because I don't think I really do anything that creative with bathrooms. I think they end up looking pretty generic, but you know, that's life. So here I'm working on for this floor plan. I wanted something that wasn't an open floor concept, but definitely something with the arches. I was hoping to create something that felt like it had more room to breathe. I wasn't trying to go for that like Victorian aesthetic where it's kind of like a maze and everything's a little cramped. I really wanted breathing room in this house. So really interesting. Also, unlike my other builds, I usually go in when I'm building and I kind of have an idea of who will live there or a concept of what that family might be like, or sometimes I already have a Sims family in mind. Here I did not. I still even haven't created that Sim family for this house yet. So I think I kind of struggled a little with some of the bedrooms and some of the decorating because I just didn't know who these Sims were. So you see I'm starting to build some of the rooms and trying to figure things out, moving some of the windows around. I know some people, once they put down windows, they're like, that's it, I don't change it. I'm very much the opposite. I will sometimes add windows after I've finished furnishing and take a look on the outside and go, hey, I could fit a few more here. Or sometimes even I'll be building a room and go, hey, this room doesn't have enough natural light, and we'll just like pop one in on the window, or I'll pop a window in right on the wall. So what I wanted is I wanted to do like a minimum of 4 bedrooms, preferably 5, because my idea also is that this isn't just another big empty house, which I have created those houses before, which are fun, but I really wanted a big house with a big family. Like I said, one of the reasons I think I was struggling with who this family was and what they were was because part of this inspiration, or what inspired me to build this, comes from many different places. One of them had to do with where I grew up. I grew up in New Hampshire around a lot of old farmhouses and old farms that weren't really in commission anymore, as well as there were other farms still around. As well as I was inspired by, and this one I think might shock a few people, but it might not though, but I was also inspired by Pretty Little Liars. I don't know if anyone used to watch that show. I was one of those people who watched like all 10 years of it, and suffered the entire time. But what kind of inspired me was the Hastings house. It definitely had kind of like an old farmhouse feeling, like maybe a long time ago it had been a farmhouse and then it was kind of converted into this more modern house, and it had the old barn in the backyard that they the sisters kind of argued who was going to live there. And that was kind of my inspiration for this also, was I kind of liked that idea that maybe this family weren't farmers, or maybe one parent was a farmer and the other wasn't, and the kids were kind of in that space where some of them liked to farm, some of them didn't. And then we have and I was definitely thinking if they do farm, they do not farm in the capacity that maybe their ancestors did, because I also like to think that this house has been passed down from generation to generation. But one thing I was definitely thinking about was because you'll see much later in another part, I build the barn out back, and the barn out back is, it ends up being kind of like a furnished living space. And I was thinking once again, like, oh, maybe one of like the older kids, like a teen or a young adult, could live here, or maybe grandma could live here. And once again, trying to think of what I really wanted from this build and from this play. And like I said, I haven't really worked out the details. Some of the rooms, like we'll get into, I have an idea of who lives there, or whose room it is. And some of the other rooms, I'm just like, I don't know. Or even in the parents' room, I haven't really figured out who the parents are yet. I like to think, they're definitely one of them. Definitely, their family has grown up in that farm, and that farm has been in their family a long time. And then the other one, maybe they like to farm, or maybe, they just fell in love with a farmer. As you see here in a minute, I really struggled with this frieze, or I guess it's called a frieze, but that's not what you would call it on this type of a house, though. But either way, I really struggled with this, and I've noticed this more recent than some of my other builds. I don't know if maybe it's like some update that happened with The Sims, but I never used to struggle this much with it. And the thing also that was annoying is I had it there before, and then somehow it got deleted. Who knows? I don't know if, comment down below if you also have these weird problems with that part of the building. But yeah, so that was kind of my, as you see, this house is coming from many different inspirations, and you're going to see when I build it, I do build area where they can still farm crops. Maybe, they don't farm animals anymore. Maybe if they do farm, they farm for themselves, or maybe they just like to keep the land, just because, they like that heritage. I knew plenty of people who lived on farms when I lived in New Hampshire who they themselves didn't farm, but, it had always been in their family. And like I said, with this house, I was thinking maybe this house was built at the latest in the in the early 20th century, preferably maybe more 19th century, but even I don't know if it really fits that architectural style. But also farmhouses are an interesting one where there isn't really a farmhouse style. There's definitely from generation or decade to decade there's things you can do, but to signify when it was built. But I think also with this house, the people who live here have definitely updated it, so it's very modern in some ways. Like I was thinking that dining room is very modern. This kitchen has lots of modern appliances, and that just has to do with where I grew up. Also in New Hampshire, a lot of the houses were older, and then a lot of them had modern appliances, but that's also because to sell a house where I lived, you really needed to update it because some of the homes were really old, but not old enough to be ooh, cool, historic, but just but still old enough to be really outdated if you aren't changing things up. So you see here in a little bit, I'm going to put in an island, which I didn't think I was going to before, but I just felt like I wanted a big kitchen, but not this. It just felt empty. Also, I'm not the kind of person to really clutter countertops. I know some people really love cluttering countertops. I just know for me personally, and in my own future home one day, I will not have cluttered countertops. I like the space. That's just, who I am. If I have adequate storage space, which right now I don't, but if I did, I would never have anything out even on my desk. As you see here, I moved the sink over. I really like the idea of that being a very modern sink, but trying to have that kind of rustic feel to it. That's really what I was going for this home, is I wanted it to feel modern but have kind of a rustic inspiration. I really love this kitchen kitchens I used to really be bad at making. I would like just throw a countertop down with like an oven and be like, there it is, y'all, the kitchen. But this kitchen I'm very happy with how it came out. I especially love how the island came out. And what I like it is, you know, they can eat there maybe for breakfast, but you know, the dining room's like the formal eating space. I was also thinking with this house, with how big I was making it, I really wanted this family to, you know, have the ability to really entertain. Which, you know, sometimes when I build homes, I don't really think of like the Sims inviting guests over. And it's like so funny because so many of my Sims do not have friends outside of like their own household, because, you know, I build these houses giving them everything they need in it, so they like never need to leave. And it's so bad. Like some of my Sims, especially if you saw my video where I reviewed the Witches and Warlock mod pack, those Sims, my Sim witches, they never leave their house, and that's because I've literally given them everything they need. They have like little to every friend they have outside of their household I have brought to them. It's bad, but I think it's really funny though. So I was really thinking here that this would be a good home to entertain in. You know, maybe invite the neighbors over or some guests, have a dinner party. Because, you know, there's this big dining room, as well as you'll see when we get to the living room's pretty big with lots of seating. There's an extra sitting area, which I'm about to right now actually start furnishing. And I'm going to switch things around because I put the chimney there where that current three-person couch is. And, you know, I just feel like it's what made more sense. And what it is really I just wanted to make that just a cute little sitting area where they can just, you know, maybe relax, sit by the chimney, when the fireplace, when I do put it in, and just kind of, you know, relax. And then there's this bigger living room where I have a big entertainment center and lots of seating. And then also there's also a room with a piano, which I kind of thought of as a like a performance room to either entertain themselves or entertain guests. You see here I'm building the entertainment center out of cabinet pieces, and, you know, I didn't come up with this, you know, EA even does this in some of their builds, but I think it's a really cute idea, especially if you want something more fancy. Here, that's from the cats and dogs pack. I really love the furniture that came with like the cats and dog pack. I don't use it as much as I would personally like, but I think it fit here because, once again, those have kind of like a more rustic feel, and that's what I was really going for. This house is like a modern rustic. You know, maybe the furniture is a little old, maybe it's been in the family for a while, or maybe it's just from a pawn shop or secondhand. And here I was putting up these old photos because I was trying to you know, because like the one thing I knew for sure about this family is that they've been in this house for a long time. It's their home, their family home. And you'll see here, this entryway, I don't think I really ended up doing anything that phenomenal with. If I could go back before and go back and maybe add a little side table or something else, who knows. Here I'm doing the office, which is really funny. I built offices a lot in The Sims, but I've never lived in a house where we've had an office. The house I grew up in New Hampshire was an old cabin that had been like made into a year-round home. So, you know, there wasn't an office. There was barely enough room for all of us. But here for the my office has always looked the same too. But here we have like a little entertainment room. My idea for it was thinking maybe one of your Sims plays the piano, like one of the parents, one of the kids, and if they're entertaining guests or just each other. Because I also like to think this family. I know I was using the Hastings as inspiration, but, you know, I don't think they're anything like the Hastings. I like to think they're all very close, that they love being around each other. Here's a little like activities room. I knew this hallway needed something. I really just ended up putting the chess table for like the logic skill, and then an easel for the art skill. Maybe some of your Sims are interested in those skills, maybe they're not. If not, I think also it's a good way to utilize that space. As you see here now, I'm putting in the chimney, get rid of that window. I ended up using, I think, the cats and dogs chimney. Once again, it had that kind of rustic feel, and that's what I was really going for, was that this is an old home that maybe has been renovated time and time again. Here I used the half walls to create the chimney. Chimneys in The Sims 4 are really interesting, because you can do this and make a really nice chimney, or you could just put the chimney on the roof. The only issue I have with that, which usually I don't have a huge issue with it, but I definitely think this looks better for my own, and I think it just looks better for the builds I'm going for. You see, like, I don't know, it adds like a cute little, just like homey aesthetic, I think. I also was going with this build, I didn't want to do a very even balanced build, and the reason for that was I wanted it to have the feel that maybe additions had been added onto it. So here I'm getting into the decorating upstairs, and here I'm starting to think a little bit more about who these Sims are. And for the most part, I really only have, I think, at this point when I was doing it, I really only had like about like 3 or 4 of them like really pinned down on their, at least their basic personalities. So here's the parents from the master suite, and I haven't really figured out the parents yet. I'm not sure if for my own purposes, if they're farmers, if one of them's a farmer, or maybe they just have been in the family, so why not live here? And I think because I didn't really know, I really tried to keep it very minimal decorated wise. And I think also when I do builds, I don't want to over decorate the rooms, because I want anyone who's going to download it, I want them to feel like they can go in and change what they want. I don't want to go in and put all this time and then someone be like, oh, I guess I'm stuck with this, even though I don't have a Sim who would live in a room like this. Here for these, I think these are the most fleshed out Sims I had, and these are, my idea is that these are 2 twins, and they're both, and rather than the 2 twins being, I feel like often twins are like, there's one artsy one, or one really into sports, but here my idea is that they're both artists, but the thing is that they're very different in their art styles. And I picked the 2 Van Gogh beds, and I was thinking the one with the yellow bed there with the yellow flowers was really kind of into really bright, colorful, happy paintings, and that maybe the one with Starry Night was a little bit more into more reserved and dark paleted works. So here we're about to get into also these 2 rooms with the shared bathroom. My idea was that they're 2 sisters, but one being a teen and one being a child. And for the teen girl, I really wanted this kind of stereotypical pink feminine room. And I really don't like making rooms like that. I don't usually like to feed into too many like stereotypes around gender that way, but my idea for it also, I had this idea of her being kind of maybe wanting to get off the farm, wanting to go do something that she maybe thinks is more worth her time, and then her younger sister maybe more of a tomboy and wants to live on the farm. And then this other room here, I have no idea who this person is. If anything, I think I have that other room there with the quilt I do not have them figured out or who they are, but like I said, of course, if you download this, you can put any Sims in here. You can tear down all the decoration. If you're like, yeah, no, I don't have any kid Sims, or none of my Sims with like a pink room, go ahead. Like I said, I try to keep it vague enough so you guys don't feel like you have to keep it. But yeah, I think I'm about to wrap up my voiceover around here. Thank you so much for watching. Look out for our next part where I start to begin the barn and landscaping, I believe is what's coming up next. And let me know if you guys like this style of video, or if you would like me just to do one longer build where I cut out all of this stuff, because maybe you're not interested in hearing me talk about nothing. Alright, thank you so much, and have a great night.